Hey, what's up, guys? Ladies, gentlemen, gangsters, thugs, wanksters, pranksters. Um, Today is the day that hopefully I will finish this and we'll start doing some testing. It's been like 3 months, so. Alright, let's see. Devlog, let's go over here. Why does this feel awkward? I don't know. Alright. Let's copy this. This is save logic low state part 6. Associated logic. Well, we actually finished that. So we're just gonna call this. We'll just put question marks because we don't really know what we're gonna end up doing. We're gonna be doing like miscellaneous tasks and stuff. But we started at 5:41. Let's say 5:40. Give myself an extra minute, dude. Look at him stealing time. Oh my god. Look at him stealing time. Oh my god. Alright. The fuck am I doing exactly? Look like we might be going. Oh, wait, hold up. Trump declares war on Arab nation. Oh shit. Okay, so guys, we may have officially joined the Iran Israel war. Damn. Well, there it is. You want to know my thoughts on that? My thoughts on that are, I really hate to say this, but I believe that those people are psychos over there in Iran, and I think we should destroy them. It's just my personal opinion. The military specifically. I think the military over there is their government, rather, not necessarily their military, their government is very radicalized and violent, and they're basically like animals. And I say take the opportunity, help Israel out, destroy them. Why not? They're a plague on the earth, you know. People clown Netanyahu for saying he might be he's like Hitler. I don't think it's a. Basically, they literally. What's the difference? You had Hitler in Germany walking around saying, "Death to the Jews," his whole nation, and then you have Iran, a whole nation, walking around saying, "Death to Israel, death to America." Pretty much a one-to-one there. So. That's my thoughts. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to code. But that's just my thought. My little 2 cents. What the fuck am I doing here? Alright. Okay. So. Why I got a gangster lean? I always lean. I don't know. Somewhere in my posture, I'm always leaning a little bit. That's just the way it is. A little gangster lean going. Can't really help it. Okay, let's get to work, dude. Alright, let's go things to do. Yesterday, what did we do? We did save logic part 5. We finished the associated logic in save logic file for the load state function. We stage committed, blah, blah, blah. We didn't really review the last part. Well, we actually did. I put my double stamp of approval. I am not going to review this again. I'm sorry, guys. I reviewed it already. I'm not going to do the double review thing. I'm just not. I'm ready to move on. So a bug will show itself when it shows itself, right? It will show itself. And if it doesn't, then hey, does it really exist? If there's a tree and it falls down in the woods, but there's no one around to hear it, did it actually fall down? Review logic associated with serialize and insert function. Alright, so determine whether to use self-cursor or the context-managed database connection from the context in which the function is called. Okay, so let's go to serialize and insert function. So we're going to go all the way up here to, what is it called? Serialize and insert, okay. And serialize data, okay, right. We were determining whether or not we're going to pass the cursor to as an arg, or whether we're going to use the self.cursor. I mean, there is an alternative to this, and that would be to set the self.cursor to whatever cursor it is that we're using at any given time. Does that make sense? So like whenever we create a new cursor, we would just like assign it to self.cursor, so that self-cursor would be a revolving door. And then any place where we use self.cursor, well, actually that wouldn't work, would it? So that's, I don't think that would work. If we have self-cursor assigned to some cursor object, which is just a space in memory, well, I don't know. How would it behave? Like a mutable object or an immutable object? Because I think that would work. If we had cursor assigned to, let's just say we had it assigned to the integer 1, and then we reassign self-cursor to be 3, and then later on in a different function, when we call self-cursor, it's gonna return 3. It's not gonna return 1, because it is past the self every time it is called, right? Yeah, like every time it's called, it is past the self, the modified self. So that would mean if the cursor is modified, it should refer to the new cursor object. So let me just like ask ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is pretty probably better at coding than I am, honestly. Maybe not, it's debatable. Let's see, Python, and we're gonna Python 3 SQLite 3, and we're gonna pass it this code here, and then we're gonna say, for the above code, if I previously assigned self.cursor equal to 1, or a cursor object, and then reassign it to a different cursor object later on. If I previously assigned self-cursor to a cursor object at instantiation, and then reassign it to a different cursor object later on, does that reassign the will the later cursor object be used in the function call at a later time? Yes, if you reassign self cursor to a different cursor object later, and then call serialize and insert function afterward, the function will use the new reassigned cursor. And Python self cursor is just an attribute on the instance, and this is just Python 101 here, but you know, sometimes I forget basic stuff. Python looks up the current value of self cursor at that moment. It doesn't remember the old one from when the function was defined or earlier in the program. Example, import SQLite 3, import pickle, class saver, blah blah blah. Create first cursor, con1, SQLite 3 connect. Yes, if you reassign self cursor, future calls to the function will use the new cursor. If you reassign self cursor, the future calls to the function will use the new cursor. Just make sure that the new cursor is connected to a database that has the same schema if your logic depends on it. Yeah, alright, simple. Easy. Okay. So in that case, I don't really like adding args because that just kind of like muddies up. It muddies up the fucking makes it confusing, you know what I mean? So I would rather just keep it simple, and we'll reassign self cursor in the places. So like we can keep this as self cursor. It's just going to be, well, maybe we can't do that because cursor could be connected to a different table, so we might not be able to do that. We might see we have database that cursor select exists. Database cursor fetch 1. Execute many. How is that a different? Okay, and then we have, this is the attribute. Self cursor, blah blah blah. Oh, you know what I just realized? I just realized that I'm not setting pragma settings for whenever we're using context to manage database connections. You feel? Yeah. True. So we need to do that. That needs to be added to things to do. Let's say add pragma settings to context managed DB cons. Realize we aren't setting pragma settings for context managed DB cons using with 0 setting pragma settings or down to manage DB cons using with. Go through entire project searching for with or something to locate these instances and add in the write ahead logging and synchronous. Isn't that what it's called? Yeah. Journal mode and then synchronous. Alright, easy. Okay. That'll be directly below this one. Let's go back over here. What are you doing here? What's going on? What am I doing? Okay, yeah, we're looking through all these instances of cursor. Okay, so we have cursor execute, blah blah blah. So you create table. So honestly, I would say all of this. Well, we can't really do that, can we? We couldn't even do this self cursor reassignment thing, because when we use with, whenever we use with, let's see if I can find one here. So right here where you say with SQLite 3 connect target path isolation level, we have to create a cursor. Target cursor equals DB cursor. SQLite 3 is DB. Yeah, we have to create the cursor, because a cursor is a direct derivative of the context managed database connection. So it's like locally created each time. So you have to locally create a new cursor each time. Yeah. So there's no way to actually reuse self cursor. So basically what we're gonna do, I think, is this task, which was just gonna be a local minor task, is gonna turn into a little bit of a bigger one, wherein we're basically gonna be removing the entire like self.db self.cursor and replacing those attributes with just context managed database connections, because that's the real proper way to do it. I think that's like what companies and stuff like want you know, that's like that's the right way to do it. So let me ask about this. SQLite 3, Python 3, when using dbcons, is it best practice to use context management for dbcons for them? Also, is when using with to open dbcon, do you have to set con equal to none and cursor equal to none after the usage to free up that memory space, or is it internally handled by the context manager? Is it best practice? Yes, using context management is best practice for short-lived operations or scripts, because it automatically commits the transaction if there's no exception or rolls it back if one occurs. So context management does auto commit. Okay, and then it automatically closes the connection. And then it results in a cleaner and safer code, especially for handling exceptions. However, if you're maintaining a long-lived connection, in a game loop, background thread, or service, manually managing the connection might be better to avoid repeatedly opening closing the database. Used with for short-lived one-shot operation, like in apps with frequent DB access. Do you have to set cons to none and cursor to none manually afterward? No, when you use a context manager with SQLite 3 Connect as con, Python handles cleanup for you. The connection is closed automatically. Any cursor created inside the with block will be garbage collected when it goes out of scope. Use it at the end of the block. Setting con to none or cursor is unnecessary in most cases, unless you're trying to force early cleanup before end of scope, working in a tight loop. Yeah, so the con is closed, and then cursor is set to none. Garbage collection, see whether they'll clean up unreferenced object closing cursors if they aren't explicitly closed. But explicitly called the speaker. Okay, so actually, so if I am using DB in Python 3, SQLite 3, online card game, which saves the data persistently over and over in a while loop throughout the game, every 1/4 of a second or something like that, or so. Would it be better to leave the con open or to close and open it over and over? In your case, saving persistently every 1/4 second in a loop, it is much better to leave the connection open and reuse it rather than... So opening and closing SQLite connections is relatively expensive. If you're doing it every 1/4 of a second, you're wasting CPU cycles and possibly introducing unnecessary lag or stutter, especially in real-time gameplay. File locking issues. Constantly opening and closing can lead to more frequent contention on the SQLite database, increasing the risk of operational error. Database is locked. Thread safety. If your save loop is in a dedicated thread and reuses the same connection, that's ideal. SQLite connections are not inherently thread safe. SQLite connections are not inherently thread safe unless check same thread equals false. But even with that, it's best that each thread has its own dedicated connection and reuses it. You still get persistence and durability even with an open connection, as long as you con commit periodically or let your upserts handle it explicitly. Okay, so this is actually telling me I shouldn't use so just saving in a background thread. I'm not saving in a background thread. I'm actually using one thread for the entire game loop client side. That makes things even worse. Since using a single thread for the entire game loop, including saving, you should absolutely keep SQLite throughout the lifetime of the game session. Reuse a single con and cursor instance. Call con commit after you save periodically, depending on how critical data persistence is. Batching. If saving the same objects every time, consider only writing the DB if the DB objects change. Hashtag or dirty flags. Yeah, if this same objects every time, consider only writing to the DB if the object has changed. Hash data. Or dirty flags. Okay, so that's a good idea, actually, using a dirty flag. Just an integer. Right frequency. If full commentary feel heavy, you can backtrace every few seconds. Says if parallels are going to program taking this full, ensure data reaches disk. Better for write concurrency. Avoid this while game is running. This open writes commits close it, which is bad for performance and stability. Okay. Well, look at that. See, that's why I consult with the AI every now and then, because well, it's very smart. And it's basically telling me that what I should do is I should actually not use context management, which is which is okay because I initially was told, um, that I should use context management, but I don't think I was very clear in my prompting to make sure that it understood that like I was gonna be, like saving every quarter of a second, which is fine because this is a learning experience for me and I learned about context management. So yeah, I learned about context management in using it. So actually this like kind of makes things a little bit easier. I mean, this is not a huge deal. This is not like make or break anything one way or the other. It's gonna be fine if we did use context management or not. But I am a bit of a perfectionist. I do like my stuff to be nice and tight. So I think what I will do is I will actually go ahead and use the I will go ahead and I think convert everything from context management to attribute cursor, so that we're not recreating short-lived connections. We're going to be using the longer lasting cons. So let's see, let's go over here. Let's look what we got going on here. Be allowed to consider the serialized insert function. Determine whether you use self cursor. Let's see. Functions called. Be careful. Check out code. Add pragma settings to context manage db cons. Realize. Okay, so actually this is gonna nix this task basically because we're gonna be using what about whenever we are doing a backup? Well, we're going to be doing a backup like every quarter of a second anyway, so that's still the same thing. So even the connection to, we have 3 databases. We have the main, we have the stable, and then we have the stable backup. So we will have 3 live connections. We'll have con stable, and then con stable backup, and we'll just use that. Use those 3 connections, right? I think that makes sense. Yeah, we can do that. And that was how it was initially before I converted to using context management. So I kind of did that to my own self by not prompting correctly, but that's okay. It's really not that big of a deal. It's all a learning process anyway. So we have review logic associated with determinant. So this is going to be replaced, these 2. Let's see. We're going to replace this task with a new task, which is going to be convert all DB connection related code to use adder DB cons. Consulted with the god ChatGPT and determined that the best course of action for persistent saves would be to not use context management. Therefore, we will be using database class instance connections throughout, i.e. dbcon, db stable con, and then db stable backup con, etc. So go through and review all the DB related code to make this change. Alright, that's not really what I wanted to do, but like, it's okay. We'll do that. So let's go over here to save logic, and let me just make sure I have this correct in my mind. Let's go back up to the top here. I gotta zoom out mentally and just review this from a different perspective here. So we have database save, database setup function, cursor, db, etc., database cursor execute, database cursor fetch 1. What are we doing here? Client by blah blah blah. Cursor execute, select exists, select 1 from save data. So this is using the database cursor. This is basically what we're gonna convert it to. So we have database cursor, then we're gonna have cursor stable, and then cursor stable backup. And that would be created from the very beginning. So let's just do that first. So let's go over to save logic. Let's go all the way up to the tippity top here. So we have db and cursor, and then we're gonna create self db stable, and then we're gonna have self.db stable backup. So now we have self cursor stable, and then self cursor stable backup. So we're going back to how we had it initially. And why do we not assign these initially? They get assigned through the function. But why don't we just initially assign? Why do we do it like this? Determine that it would be best practice to use with for context management for it is not wise to use this function as current state since it can actually have open to use. If you want proper, yeah, that's actually wrong. Now we just determine that creates the initial database file, save data database, blah blah blah. We create self-db. Why don't we just assign this during the creation in the initializer? Why would we not just run that when it's initialized? Is there a reason? I don't think so. I don't know why we would. I mean, we don't even have to run this in a separate function. We could run the cursor execute pragma settings. Let me ask the God about this. Let's see. If we use db con assignment in database class instance init section, i.e. self.db and same for cursor, would it be okay to also run in the init section immediately after? Or should that be run through a later separate function? It's perfectly fine, even recommended to run your pragma settings like journal mode and synchronous immediately after the connection occurs or created in the init method of your database class. So if you were to do self.db and then self.cursor, then you could apply performance-related pragmas, and this could all be done in the init. It gives you faster write performance, balance, durability versus speed. Optionally commit if needed. Obviously committing, not sure the necessary pragmas unless you want to be extra clean. Well, I don't like. What does being extra clean mean? Does that mean like cleaning something that doesn't need to be clean? Like if it's 100% clean, I don't want to clean it again. Anyway, why it's okay and best practice. Pragma settings apply per connection, not globally. So running them immediately after creating the connection. Wasted. No, not wasted, dude. Alright. I wish I could drink coffee, but it's way too late for coffee. I should have... My sleep got fucked up last night. What's new? My sleep always gets fucked up. So yeah, what we're gonna do... We're just modifying all this stuff. We're just cleaning up here. We're making it nice. So yeah, we're actually gonna move this stuff to be run in the initializer. So we're going to copy this code here. And what about creating a table and all that? Could that be done in init as well? What about table creation? Should that be done in init as well? Creating tables, ensure they exist. Init is a good practice for games, tools, or apps that manage your own data schema. Create tables in a guarantee schema set up when database classes instantiated. Prevents later errors from missing tables. Keeps setup logic centralized and automatic. No need to remember to call a separate setup method. True. And that's ultimately what I like. I like the fact that basically what you're doing is like it's automatically done. You don't have to go and do it again, you know? It's done. It's done like for you already. You don't like have to. It's just smarter. It's better. Security scheme is set up when the blah blah blah. SQLite create table if not exist makes this safe. It won't override existing tables. Okay, yeah, so I think we're going to do that. We're just going to basically transfer all this code to be in the initializer. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to put remove this function and all references to it. Moved it to init instead. Let's go back up here and let's paste this in. Bro, y'all remember cow and chicken? You remember cow and chicken? I feel like I said something with a little bit of a lisp, and I'm like, I think one of them had a lisp in cow and chicken, and it reminded me of cow and chicken. Is that weird that I thought that? That's funny. So we got DB stable backup, blah 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 blah. We got the cursors. We going to fucking war with Iran, dude. Hey. Hey. We going to war with Iran. That's crazy, huh? That's crazy, dude. DB stable back up. And it's good practice to put modified date in your comments just because it just helps you like remember when you're debugging. It will be like, why is this, something's wrong here, and then you'll be like, oh, I recently modified it. It's a tell, you know. I love that shit, dude. Final Fantasy 13 lo-fi hip hop mix. Shout out. That shit's dope. Shout out to Cozy, cause that shit is lit. Alright, what I'm doing here? Alright, now I need to create the table. The unstable concept data DB table periodic up to save data stable. Blah 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 blah. So we don't want to add that comment. Okay. So basically what this is doing here is we're going to create sets of DB with proper settings. If client.soft disconnect is equal to false. Create sets of DB with proper settings. Yeah, we're not gonna need this anymore. That's the function we just got rid of. So yeah, we can just get rid of this completely. Boom. Convert to a dictionary, wherein the keys of the currently listed string object with the associated values being an int represents a save process designation in which groups object names such as that logic for saving them is the same. Yeah, I already did that. I love getting rid of those. I don't know if we need this anymore. Do we need save data stable path? I'm not sure we do. I don't know about this, boys. Well, I'm confused here. If OS path exists, save data stable path, verified syntax. So this is create backup DB function. Function which creates updated stable save for the backup DBs, transfers data from save data DB to save data stable DB and save data stable backup DB. Wouldn't the path always exist though? If DB backup is okay. Reverse index rate testing and SQLite digits. Oh no! Fuck. It requires a lot of modifications. It's not a lot, but it's just fuck. I should have been a little more diligent first time when I made the decision to use context manage. Fuck, man. All right, whatever. It's all good. Shit. It's all good. It's all good. It's not a big deal. It's just a little extra time. Just a little extra time. So do we need save data stable path? I guess I need this. I don't know what, like, when would it not exist? Why would the stable path if it's been instantiated, it exists. So I'm just wondering why. I'm like, there's no reason to check stable integrity since it is verified to not affect final order of events, either to remain the same. I'm just confused. Why do we check this path exists? If we have stable and we have stable backup, is this because before, the way that we did it, there was no save data stable until we created, like, we created it at a later point? Create function do you like this? This is dangerous, like, because there had to have been a different set of, like, there was a different reason that I had this code here, because with the modification we just made, which is different obviously than what it was, the path would have existed. It exists at the beginning of time, basically, as far as this is concerned. From the time the database is instantiated, that path is going to exist. We create the backup and stuff up here, but before, when would it have been created? Let's see. Well, it wouldn't have been created in save db setup function, because that only created the first one. Where is this function at? Let's see. It's not create db, because this just does this just runs copy db vacuum function, and then we go to db vacuum function. We get, if the path exists, remove it, and then we vacuum into the target path. So, well, actually, that's not problematic, is it? If OS path exists, target path OS remove. So technically, if we crashed out right here after the remove, before it did the vacuum into, which technically could happen, obviously, and then when we reconnect, this path would have been removed, so it wouldn't exist, but it would be recreated whenever we reconnected at instantiation. So I am not sure that the way that we're gonna do it now with the initializer, I am not sure that we need this anymore. Like, I don't think we do. I don't believe we do. Because the path is basically going to always exist. If we remove it and then it crashes for whatever reason. Well, if we had a soft crash, could it have a soft crash? I'll review this another time. I'm a little bit sleepy for this. Like, it's like switching gears to think about off topic. I'll put that as a different task. We'll put review OS path exists code in light of new changes to DB cons existing always through init. Not sure that this code is valid / needed anymore, since we are always going to have these paths in existence. The only time I can think of wherein these paths would not exist would be in the case that after os.remove was run, after os remove was run, there was a soft crash. In this case, the path would be removed, and would have to be recreated / checked using this line. But does this actually happen? Or is it even possible? Yeah. Be careful review. Alright. So anyway, we're going to hold off on save data stable path. Does this need to be back to where we started? It's all good. This is part of the process. It's part of the process. It takes time. Things take time, my dude. Nothing happens as fast as you want it to. Well, most things don't. Anyway. Okay, this we can get rid of. This will probably be the last thing we do. We're not worried about those temp files and shit. So we're gonna check this if we need this code tomorrow, but I don't think we do. My gut instinct is to say we won't need this if OS path exists, which means we wouldn't need this this line right here. and all that. We would just basically check if the DB was okay. I think all that's gonna need to be modified though, honestly, because we'll get into that tomorrow. I'm not gonna like, I'll do it when I do it, you know. I don't want to sit on the sidelines. Let's just skip through this real quick and continue the DB review. So we're basically looking for with context manage, which maybe I should have searched for that instead, but I wanted to be thorough here. Move. So the project actually into. So right here, here's our with management. We're not going to use that anymore, I don't think. So this is where we're going to stop, and we'll pick up right here tomorrow. And it wasn't the most productive session. I mean, it was mental work. It was just not on here work. You know what I mean? It was working here, but it wasn't. That's just how it is sometimes. The later you get into the project, the more the work is mental and the less you're actually like modifying code and stuff, you know? You're like thinking about it more than you're actually modifying it. So yeah, we're gonna stop there. That's line 199. So let's go over here. And let's just put here that we stopped at line number 199 in save logic pi 540 to 651, and this will be 653. Again, converting audio relay code using so this would be save logic pi we'll call this the final, we'll say final adjustments part 1. $653. So that was, we'll just say 1.25 hours. Now we go here, and we're at the root of the project directory, which is very important. We're going to do git branch to see if we're on the right branch. We are. We're going to do git add to stage everything. Git commit -m double quotes, paste in the devlog, and let's review the devlog. Save logic pi final adjustments part 1, proper date, proper time 540 653, 1.25 hours, 540 651 being converted, yes. Subline 199, 652 653 stage committed, yep. So we did our commit. We had 4 files changed, 40 insertions, 23 deletions. Now we're going to do git push to push up to the remote GitHub repository. There it goes. Alright, now what we need to do is go over here to programming, projects, Canasta, copy this one, go over here to backup, we delete the old one, we'll paste in the new one, we enter into it, we go to text to devlog all the way to the end here. We got 617.25, that's modified to be updated all the way to reflect today's date. Modify that folder name. And that's it, guys. I'm like fucking exhausted, not gonna lie. I didn't sleep good last night, but you know, that's how it is sometimes. Still got an hour in. Not the greatest session, but you know, it's okay. It's all good. We're getting really close. We're done with now we're just the final few tasks, you know. I thought that was only going to take me about 15 minutes, that task, but it actually took me like an hour and 15 minutes, and which kind of sucks, but that's how it is sometimes. Things take longer than what you anticipate. But it was kind of like the task evolved. That actual task would have taken me 15 minutes, but since the task turned into a bigger one, it's obviously going to take me a little bit longer. But it's not like a big deal. It's going to be better. It's going to be easier to read. It's going to be improved code. It's going to be smarter. It's going to be double reviewed. So like, it's no big deal. Next session we should probably finish that task. That is doing the DB review to convert all the context managed database connection stuff to use the instance adder connections. It's going to be cleaner, it's just going to be better overall, less lines, etc. And yeah, after that, we got those last 10 tasks, if that. And we already said that each one of those should take 10-15 minutes. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minus 1, so 8. What do you say? 8 times 15. That's 2 hours, right? So that's like 2 hours of work. And then we can actually test. So you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 more sessions, and then we're gonna do the testing and stuff. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day, and we'll